Apple, as always, has done a really great job on usability. But guess what? There's no free time search. There's no ability to counter-propose. There's no ability to delegate a meeting to somebody else. I can't even send comments in if I accept a meeting. There's nothing. It's yes, no, maybe. So really great interface, but because they've narrowed the scope so much on what they're going to actually try to accomplish. Well, of course, if I was building a simple calendar interface, it'd look pretty hot right now too. But if I'm trying to build one that does everything, it's more complicated.
Which brings me to another point. It actually, I think it brings in a few subjects at the same time. You've got privacy of information, what you're willing to share with other people, and so on. You've got, if you look at the Notes calendar, you look at Outlook calendar, you look at, all these different calendars, you take out the logo, they pretty much all look the same, a 7-day grid or depending on the visualization,
sure,
on a day or a week or whatever.
Yeah.
Pretty much the look is the same. Do you think, and that grid view, before people had day planners, so it wasn't really a grid view. It was day planners, and you had Monday, too. But then when we went on the PC, we started to have the grid view. And it hasn't really evolved.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to evolve? Do you think people are willing to evolve? And if so, how do you think that will evolve?
Well, there's a lot of PC metaphors that are still stuck in some past experience, and I often think it's kind of one of the spare daydreaming things that I sit there and think about. If we didn't have this installed base, what would we do differently? Right? You can do that about anything. My favorite one is if we didn't have stoplights today, red, yellow, green, simple lights on a pole. What would, in 2010, if you had a bunch of traffic engineers try to come up with a traffic control signal for an intersection, would they come up with 3 little lights on a post? No way. So, but that's what we have, right? That's what we have in 2010. We're stuck with it because you're never going to teach the whole world some different metaphor, right? And even in 2010, the metaphor of a folder within your mail or the icon to save in most applications still looks like a floppy disk. And I haven't seen a physical floppy disk in at least 10 years, right? So we get stuck in these metaphors of the past because of the curse of the installed base. And that's no offense to anybody as an end user, but when you've trained millions of people to do something, teaching them to do it a different way is really a challenge. So again, as slick as an iPad or a BlackBerry or whatever is today in 2010, they've still stuck with the metaphors that computing industry invented 10 or 20 years ago. It will take some major inflection activity to get people comfortable doing it some other way. And I think activity-based may be the way to do that, but we've been talking about that now.
What do you mean by activity-based?
So I'm more focused on this project and this thing that I want to work on than some time slot and some email that somebody sent me. But we've been talking about that concept within our research team for 6 years now. Some of it's in our product today, but we still can't get to a metaphor that's different. It still ties to the existing tools and systems. It could be that there's a better way out there, and our researchers have some really good ideas, but even when I see them do new research projects, they still start with a grid and calendaring. So I think that it's going to be some major inflection event. Maybe it's around location services, maybe it's around some cloud thing that we don't know of yet.
Do you think the mobile can play a role in there?
I think mobile's probably the key there, right? Because mobile is where the innovation's happening right now. Faster than I can write software, I can see mobile devices with 6-month lifespan coming out with new interfaces and new capabilities. So if that's the place where it will happen, consumer adoption happens there as well. And that's the thing driving a lot of IT is the end user can go buy their own mobile device in most companies. Right? So I can choose to adopt an iPhone, I can choose to adopt a BlackBerry, I can choose to adopt a Nokia. Nobody's choosing to adopt Windows Mobile, but anyway, sorry. But as an end user, if I'm making that choice, I'm making that choice based on, Android has these really great features, but by the way, Android doesn't have a calendar that's built into the operating system yet. And even in Froyo 2.2, they have some sort of vague day-at-a-glance thing and personal calendar, but they don't have an enterprise calendar function built in. So now it's up to us as a vendor to go fill that hole, right? So every device is doing things different, And now that more of them have an app store model where a user can put their own stuff on there, users will adopt what makes sense to them. I don't like the way that Twitter looks, so I'll go to Flipbook. I don't, I'm not really excited about, the Facebook app as it's installed. I'm going to go to some different UI, right? I could use the browser for half these things, but the apps have actually made it much more interesting or useful. Right? The New York Times publishes a perfectly good website, but they have an app on there that takes that website and formats it specifically for the iPad, so I'm using that. Right? So I think that users will prod it along, but I don't know what the thing is that they're going to latch onto.
Have you tried Flipboard, by the way?
Yeah, I'm using it.
What do you think about it?
I think it's great.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same information that we're used to seeing every day. It's just displayed differently, and people are like, oh, I never knew you had that information.
Well, the thing that they did that's smart is they go one level down on the links.
Yeah.
Right? Because half those links that you see in a Twitter stream, you'd probably never click on, but all of a sudden you're reading the article or the summary of the article and you go, oh, that's pretty interesting.